Hey 78, it's Logan here, and I'm going to show you guys a couple ways to build a fire, as well as some alternative starting methods when you don't have a match or a lighter. So our first type is a lean-to. I build a lean-to in 2 steps. First, I take really small sticks, like matchstick level, and I lay them against whatever log you're going to use, and you put shavings on top of that. The reason I do it this way, instead of creating a pile of shavings with the sticks on top, is that way you have a pocket here where you can put a bird's nest or a match or whatever you're going to use to light it, and it'll light those shavings through the matchstick that you have. And then after that, you can put smaller sticks over those shavings so that those shavings have something to light. You can put them all the way around, except leave a pocket there again so that you can light it. So lean-tos are great because they're really easy and fast to set up, and they're easy to light, and they can block from wind. So if you're in the wilderness and you need a quick, easy fire that blocks some wind, these are a great option. Next is the teepee. So the teepee, how you build is you have one center post into the ground, and you start really close to the center post and you put really small sticks around the center post, and then as you get further away from the center post, you use some larger sticks here. Now it's important that as you build out from the center post, you actually put the sticks into the ground, because if you just lean them against the center post, number one, you're not going to be able to build the full teepee before they all fall over, and number two, even if you do, one stick will burn and the whole thing will collapse. So you have to make sure that you stick them in the ground. And then around your center post, you should have a really large pile of shavings. I don't have any here so that you guys can see all of the sticks, but usually you would want a pile of shavings and a pocket to light it. Now, our third way is a log cabin. This is kind of a sloppy log cabin, but it gets the concept across. So how you build a log cabin is you want to start with 2 logs, and that raises the whole log cabin up off of the ground. And what that does is that gives you a place where you can light it, and as well as a place where you can blow on the coals to start the fire up. And then inside of your 2 logs, you want to have a lean-to or something to actually light so that you can light your log cabin. And how I build it is, as I build up, the sticks move further in, so when you get to the top, they're right next to each other and it closes it off. And then I put sticks like in the layers, down, up, all over the place, so that way that lean-to that you actually start the flame with, it has something to burn in between the lean-to and these outer sticks. So the teepee is great for a fast and large flame that's really hot. So if you're cold or in the wilderness and you need light or heat, the lean-to is a great one to do, but it takes a lot of time to set up. And then the log cabin is great because it makes coals pretty fast, and it's a really hot fire, so it's good for warmth, and it makes coals so it can be good for cooking. The last thing I'm going to show you is, it's not necessarily a build a fire, but if you use 2 logs or a couple of smaller logs like I have here, and you build your fire, log cabin, teepee, lean-to, whatever you want to build, if you build it underneath and in between these 2, then once you light it and you build this fire and you make coals, the coals are right underneath where you can put a pan. So this is great for cooking because you don't need to move coals and potentially lose heat or anything like that. You can build all of your coals right underneath. So now I'm going to show you guys some alternative fire starting methods. So here are the supplies that I have. I have some sawdust, which lights really easily just from a spark. I have some lint from your dryer. It's super flammable, which is why it gets removed from your clothing. I have a 9-volt battery here and some steel wool. You want the finer stuff because that'll light better. Here I actually have some shavings from a hand drill. That stuff can light from sparks, but usually you want to use something else. I have some charred cloth, which you guys should know about. It doesn't create a flame, but it does create hot embers that you can use to light something. And this is birch bark. Birch bark is really great because it's super flaky and it's dry and it lights really well. So if you see that on the trail, grab it because it's a great thing to have for fire starting. I have two things to actually start the fire with. The first is a magnesium block with a fire starting rod. And so the magnesium block is, magnesium is a extremely flammable substance, and when you scrape it, it forms this silver powder that you guys can see there, and that can light really easily from a spark. And then I have this, which is my fire starter, creates some good sparks. So now I'm actually going to light these for you. The first is the lint here. So lint you don't really need a lot for because it creates a flame and it lights really fast. So you just need sparks. Even just a couple sparks will light flint. See? And it creates a flame, so you don't need to worry about adding sticks or shavings to it. It can create a flame, and if you have enough of it, it can light sticks all on its own. With steel wool and a 9-volt battery, this stuff is great because this you can take in any sort of heavy-duty flashlight or any technology that you bring on a camping trip. And all that you need is to touch the steel wool, and it doesn't create a flame, but as you guys can see, it definitely creates embers. And then those embers can light anything else like birch bark or anything, shavings. And then there's charred cloth, which you guys should be familiar with. This lights really easily from just a spark. See, it only needed one spark. And with a little bit of oxygen, you can see those embers. Again, like I said, this doesn't actually create a flame, but if you have shavings or sawdust, it will light those really well. Now, this right here is kind of a mix. I have a little bit of sawdust, a little bit of magnesium, some birch bark, and some shavings in there. So this is great because all of this stuff you can bring with you. A magnesium rod doesn't weigh a lot, so you can take that backpacking. Charred cloth weighs nothing. Steel wool, nothing, and you can bring your battery and some sort of appliance. Lint barely weighs anything. Sawdust doesn't weigh much. So this is all stuff that you can bring on any sort of trip, and in the wilderness at your house it can be used, and you don't have to worry about extra materials or whether or not you'll have it or how heavy. So this is the problem with using magnesium powder is it burns extremely fast, so you have to have something else right there for the magnesium to light. You can't just expect magnesium to light something like shavings because it'll burn off too fast. Nope. Thought this would be a lot easier than it is.
Use your steel, your already lit charred cloth.
There we go. So that's sort of a mix of materials, and that'll light real fast. And that you can put in any of those pockets that I left for any sort of starter. So you can pick this up by the birch bark, and you can put it underneath a log cabin, in a lean-to, anything like that. It actually just went out, which is weird, but... Well, yeah, so those are a couple of alternative ways to start a fire and some different fire builds. Yep, thank you.